What's going on YouTube? So compact sedans remain an important segment in the US market, and they are some of the most affordable vehicles you can buy these days. That's why we're spending time today with the latest version of the Volkswagen Jetta, which has some tweaks this year. So is this a premium German design for the same price as things like a Corolla or Civic? Let's go ahead and check it out. All right, let's start off with a spec dump. So under the hood of this Jetta, you've got a couple different choices. This is the 1.5 liter turbo 4-cylinder engine with 158 horsepower. It's paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission, and the combined fuel economy with front wheel drive is 33 mpg.
Now the base price of the Jetta is a little under $24,000 this year, and if you're looking to buy one or any vehicle, we'd encourage you to check out carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, of course, we'll be taking it out for a spin, but first we need to go ahead and shut up the hood and take a look at the exterior as well as the inside.
Now, getting into the exterior, this is one of the things that I think has always distinguished the Jetta a little bit above most of its competition, and that's the fact that it has a pretty sophisticated and classy overall design in a segment that typically doesn't scream, upscale in the overall appearance. So up here in the front, we have a simple grille. This was recently updated, a mesh finish down here on the bottom, a little bit of a silver accent for this SEL trim level. This would be blacked out if you get a sport grade. And then you've got your logo right there in the top, a small grille through here. And since we have the SEL, we also have the light bar, which is going to go through the grille and then link right into these headlights. Now, as far as the headlights are concerned, you have a full LED arrangement. These are reflector LEDs that'll be across all of the trim levels. And then you have your daytime running light and turn signal indicator right through there. Moving on to the wheels, you have options between 16 and 18-inch alloys. Of course, with the top trim level, you will have the 18-inch alloy. This has got a contrast design, and if you choose the sporty GLI model, since that has a little bit more performance, that will also give you higher performance brake calipers. Now, moving up here to our mirrors, you have standard blind spot monitoring and standard heating on all trim levels.
Now at the side of the Jetta, overall vehicle length is 186.5 inches, which does mean it's a little bit larger than most of your main options, and we'll see how that translates to space a little bit later on. We have chrome on our bottom window surround, and then up here at the top, we don't have a two-tone roof, but I do like the fact that the moonroof actually blends seamlessly into the front glass to kind of give you that two-tone appearance. Now, as we head around to the rear design of the Jetta, once again, classy and elegant is the name of the game with this model. I have to say, I really like the way this looks. It's one of the best looking options in the segment. We don't have a spoiler or anything like that, but we do have Jetta branding right through the center. And let's take a look at our taillights. So our taillights are going to be very premium for the segment. They're standard full LED taillights across the board. That includes your brake light, your turn signal, and your reverse light. And then as you drop down to the lower fascia, we do have a nicely done one. There's no exposed exhaust outlets, but we do have this nice chrome trim on the SEL. Now, what about safety? Volkswagen is going to be including 3 out of 4 active safety features as standard equipment, and that's even going to include things like a highway drive assist function. Furthermore, if you want auto high beams, you can get that on the SEL or GLI versions. But guys, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with the features and quality of the inside. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we have reviewed over 2,000 vehicles at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from humble to high-end, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, let's move on to the inside. First, here's the key fob. You get a smart entry system so long as you get at least the SE trim level, and we also have remote start as well. All models for 2026 have access to the Volkswagen app. And getting inside, just gonna press the little black button there, that will unlock the door. Now, just like with the exterior, the inside also has some pretty nice overall touches for a vehicle in this segment. And let's get into some of that, starting with the seats. Your base 2 trims will come with a cloth seat. Once you get to the middle trim, that's going to upgrade you to leatherette. And then your SEL as well as your GLI will come with a real leather seat. As you can see, we've got a 2-tone finish with kind of a gray down the center, nice stitching details, also a good amount of bolsters to hold you in place while you're driving. As far as the seat controls, we have 6 ways of power adjustment plus our 2-way lumbar support. Also on the SEL, we get memory seats, which is pretty rare for the segment. Let's climb on inside. Closing up the door, you get a little animation on the screen there. And let's look around at the overall cabin materials. So on the door trim here, we've got a leatherette as well as through here with a stitching detail. We have kind of a faux carbon fiber through the center section, a soft touch plastic at the top, and some piano black trim. All through here is a soft touch plastic with a stitching detail, stitched leatherette through the center section, and then down on the very lower panels, it will be hard touch as we expect for this segment. But the thing that I think stands out about this vehicle is the fact that it's very solidly put together. You can kind of feel that difference in this segment of vehicle, especially because a lot of times they have kind of hollow materials. This is very solid. It still has that German feel to it overall. Now we'll fire it up with the push button start. Now moving into some individual details of the interior, we'll start with the gauge cluster. You will get a standard digital gauge cluster. It will be 8 inches. This is the more upscale version, the 10.25 inch digital cluster, and you can change the design to a few different configurations. Now as we pull back to the steering wheel, we've got that typical Volkswagen design. Does have the flat bottom look to it. For 2026, Volkswagen is giving you the steering wheel with the physical buttons on all trims, including the GLI, which previously had those little touch-sensitive buttons. The wheel itself is manual tilt and telescoping. We also have steering wheel heating on the SEL. Moving to interior storage, opening up the center console here, we've got a pretty decent collection of donuts going inside of there. To be exact, we have 10 donuts inside, which is decent for this segment of vehicle. Not the largest that you can get, but it is pretty good. You've got 2 cup holders right there and a little bit more storage up here in the front. This also doubles as a wireless phone charging pad, and then you've got some USB-C connections through there. As we move back to the steering wheel, you have just kind of a shifter. Other S word. Now as you move back to the shifter, traditional style, pull back for drive. You can go to the right if you want to shift manually. This trim doesn't have paddle shifters, but of course you can get those on the GLI. And when we go into reverse, here's our standard backup camera. Overall resolution is certainly on the low side. We also do not have active trajectory. Next to that is your electronic parking brake, and you also have your auto start stop defeat button. And then let's move to our climate in the center area. This is actually surprisingly standard on all trim levels as a dual zone automatic setup. This is touch sensitive like many Volkswagen models, so you can just tap or you can slide. Actually works relatively well, although I know a lot of people would just prefer to have the physical controls. Also inside of this panel, you'll find your heated and ventilated seats. The heated seats are standard on the Sport, so that will be all but the base model, and then the ventilated seats are on the SEL and the GLI performance trim. Next up, let's move to the audio system. So you have 4, 6, and 8 speaker sound systems, and that in itself is an update for 2026. The SEL and the GLI lose the Beats audio. Now they just move to a kind of an unbranded 8-speaker sound system. Let's give it a sample though and hear what it sounds like. Overall sound quality is fine. I wouldn't say it's a huge change from what it was before, but I do feel that it has a little bit less bass than that Beats system. Alright, moving to the rest of the technology experience, we've got our main infotainment display. This measures in at 8 inches overall. It is standard on all models starting last year with its mid-cycle refresh. Now in terms of the features on board, you have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That's what you're looking at right there. And then of course you can cycle back to the main Volkswagen display and look at the overall software experience. It's pretty easy to deal with. Up top, we've got an auto-dimming mirror with HomeLink universal remotes. And then I've got another update for the sunroof situation. So this sunroof is now standard on the SE trim level and above for 2026, giving you a little bit more value to that mid-level trim.
Now we need to check out the rear seats of the Jetta. First and foremost, let's talk about space. So what we're sitting at is 37.4 inches of legroom, 37.2 inches of headroom. Both of those figures are going to be pretty good for this segment of vehicle. Like I said, this is on the larger side for the segment, so that definitely shows up here in the rear seat when it comes to space. Official Car Confections ruler, of course, I brought that along. That's to show you the real-life knee room figure. This seat is adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8", I'm 5'9", and we are looking at around 8 inches of knee space. Also, my feet can slide up underneath of the seats. And speaking of the seats, I like the fact that even here in the rear, you have the same two-tone finishes in the front. They're also pretty softly padded as well. Now, dropping down the central armrest, we have 2 cup holders right here. We do not have any vents or anything like that. I wish they had included vents. However, they have included a feature that's super rare for this segment, and that's the heated back seats. That's going to be included here on this fully loaded SEL trim level. Looking at the door trim, pretty much all of this is going to be a hard touch plastic, although we do have some color variation. And then down at the armrest portion, that is going to be a padded plastic, and then you also have quite a bit of door storage. Walking up to the cargo area, there is a button underneath of the lid to open it up, and as you can see, it's nicely dampened as well. And as far as cargo capacity, 14.1 cubic feet of space is what you're sitting at for the Jetta. That's, once again, a good size for this segment. It's not necessarily the largest in the segment, but it is going to be one of your larger offerings. And speaking of all the other offerings that you could be looking at, we'd encourage you to check out carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. We've looked at all of the affordable sedans for sale and ranked them in individual categories. Things like cargo capacity, rear seats, interior features, technology, powertrain choices, and very importantly, value. In each of those categories, you can go in and sort the list to see the best options depending on what's most important to you. So it really helps you to make an informed buying decision, which we'd recommend you do because it is a very competitive segment. Once more, at carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. Now, when it comes to the cargo area, one of the things we also like to do on this channel is get our cargo length, width, and height figures. As far as cargo length, we're looking at 44 inches behind the second row. As far as the opening, that's going to be 39 inches wide, and then the height is coming in at 22 inches tall. And then the load-in height is sitting at 28 inches. Now, as far as individual features, we have 60/40 split folding seats, and then underneath of the floor, we additionally have a spare tire as well. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the 2026 Volkswagen Jetta, and this test drive we'll be discussing quite a lot, as you can see on the screen right now. But first and foremost, we need to go ahead and start with a hard acceleration.
All right, that takes us off to 60 miles an hour with this Jetta. Not bad at all. So this is a punchy little powertrain, that's for sure. So as we kind of discussed at the spec dump, we start with the 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. It makes 158 horsepower. This is what's standard on all the trims except for the GLI. That's the performance trim level. And I have to say, the thing that I initially noticed on the acceleration is just how punchy it is right off the line, and also the nice surge of torque you get.
Yeah. Typically in this segment, you don't say anything is all that punchy. Typically they're on the slower side, that's for sure. However, I will say I totally agree with you on that. It has 184 pound-feet of torque, so that is going to be definitely on the higher end in terms of numbers compared to most of the rivals, like a Kia K4, for instance, would have 130-ish pound-feet of torque. So it's a significant upgrade, and I think you can absolutely feel that. And, you know, in typical German fashion, it's a pretty refined turbo 4-cylinder as well. So when you press the accelerator even down pretty hard, it doesn't sound unrefined or anything like that.
Yeah, certainly. You know, a lot of the base engines, those are also naturally aspirated, so they don't have that torque richness, they strain a little bit more. And I think the other factor that plays into this is the transmission as well. So we might as well just go ahead and jump right into that. This has got an 8-speed automatic transmission, whereas most of the rivals are using a continuously variable transmission. So when you have a lower powered engine with a CVT, it's going to create that droning type of sound. This, strays away from that. Like Mason said, it's on the quieter side of things. Now, we mentioned it a couple times up to this point, the GLI performance model. That really is a completely different powertrain situation. One of the big things about that is the fact that it has 2 different transmissions. You can get a dual clutch automatic transmission with 7 speeds, or you can get a 6-speed manual transmission. And Volkswagen has confirmed that 2026 will be the last year that you can get the 6-speed manual, meaning it is the last Volkswagen that you can get with a manual transmission. So buy that while you can if you're interested, because you don't have that much longer before that switches over to the next model year and it's going to be gone.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the case. A lot of people don't buy manuals, so they are making that decision. But I have to say, the GLI is a great car. And, speaking of it, let's talk about the powertrain. It's a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, 228 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. We do actually have a dedicated review. We had the opportunity to live with one, road trip with one. So if you want to check that out, you can find that live on our channel already. All right, and we are speeding up to 55 miles per hour, so I'll go ahead and toggle us to fan speed 1 so we can get a sound level reading and see how quiet the Jetta is. 56.9 is our sound level reading here in this Volkswagen Jetta. We don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to other affordable compact sedans. We can find that on our website, carconfections.com/sound level readings. Now, comparatively to a lot of its competition that is going to be pretty much in the middle of the segment, it is quieter than a lot of the main rivals like a Honda Civic. However, it's not quite as quiet as the Kia K4 or the Mazda 3, which are definitely going for that more premium end of the spectrum. But let's take a second here to talk about ride quality. I'm sure you're wondering how that is. The Jetta is going to have a pretty good ride quality overall. We're on a pretty rough road right here, and you can see some of the bump demonstration. I will say some of that is making it into the cabin, so this is going to have perhaps a little bit of a firmer ride than some of the main competition you could be looking at. Toyota Corolla is definitely going to be on the softer end of the spectrum. However, I do feel like it's good ride quality overall. It's not going to be something that's like super problematic to you, and in typical German fashion, it has a little bit of a sportier edge than some of the other rivals. Also, these seats I find to be pretty comfortable overall. Now, power is put to the ground via the front wheels, and when it comes to fuel economy, you're sitting at some pretty decent numbers. It's 34 miles per gallon for the base S model, 33 mpg for versions like this SEL with front wheel drive, and then the GLI is coming in at 29 miles per gallon. Now, I do want to point out that does, of course, mean that there is not going to be a hybrid offered. Unfortunately, Volkswagen has not added anything like that to the Jetta lineup or all-wheel drive.
And that's going to be today's airball, is just that kind of lack of powertrain options compared to the main competition, giving you some, more compelling things, especially, these days you're wanting to save some money on fuel, and the fuel economy is certainly not exceptional for this segment of vehicle, even without a hybrid.
Yeah. Now, on the flip side, our slam dunk is just going to be the overall value, especially if you get one of the middle trim levels of this Jetta. I feel like it poses a really, really good value compared to most of the competitions, especially like the Honda Civic, which has gotten a lot pricier recently. I think you get a lot better of a deal with more features on this Jetta. But what about the pricing? So as I said at the very beginning, we start at under $24,000 for 2026, and you can see the full lineup of prices on the screen right now. We have the fully loaded traditional gas option, the SEL. That actually starts at under $30,000, and after we add in a few options, as well as $1,275 destination, we're sitting at $2,469. If you're curious as to where it's manufactured, it is in Mexico. And if you're looking to buy a Jetta or any vehicle, we'd encourage you to check out carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you should do that is because we have a tool on our website that'll connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use if you plan on doing dealership negotiation. You can find a link to that in our video description, as well as a pinned comment at the top of this video. And there's even things like a monthly payment calculator on there. But what about Volkswagen's resale reliability and warranty? First up, let's talk about resale value. Volkswagen as a brand is rated at an estimated retained value after 5 years and 60,000 miles of 51.8%, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 14.7%. Now that's right at the industry average for all vehicle brands. However, I do want to point out it is going to be significantly less than some of the Japanese rivals such as Mazda, Honda, and Toyota.
Now we've also calculated our combined reliability index. With the latest 2026 data, Volkswagen is rated below overall industry average against all other vehicle makes.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our reliability and resale values, be sure to go to carconfections.com. Now, when it comes to your warranty, you have a 4-year, 50,000-mile basic and powertrain warranty. You do get 2 years and 20,000 miles of complimentary maintenance, though. And guys, that wraps up our in-depth review of the 2026 Volkswagen Jetta. If you enjoyed watching this video where we detail some of the 2026 changes, as well as talk about this affordable sedan, we'd appreciate you subscribing down below and becoming a part of our family. We have a lot of fun on this channel, and we promise you won't want to miss out. And if you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support. You make this all possible. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.